skin, so gorgeous. We thank the life gorgeous. Thank the life gorgeous. I love the life gorgeous. Its torso is so tight.
Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Life Gorgeous. My name is Craigers. This is where I share my magical life in hopes of improving your life. The Timberwolves are on fire. We're heading to the stretch run. I need to bring in my guy, Dane Moore, from the Dane Moore podcast. All he talks about are the Timberwolves. He's granular, I believe is the term we're using. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Dane Moore from the Dane Moore podcast. Hello, sir.
Let's get granular.
Granular.
I don't know. Britt called me granular. We did a show last night, and he called me or granular.
Yes, granular. I think I said granular. No, granular. Grain. That's not from grain. He has a wonderful vocabulary, as does my older brother, Chris, who was lone valedictorian of his graduating class. Mm-hmm. I used to have my friends test him, and they said peripatetic, and he said itinerant, and the guy gave up. But anywho, nomadic, like Larry Brown, moving around from job to job. So how'd it go last night?
It's good, man. It's like, what's really cool about this season, I think, for the Wolves being good for the first time in forever is, everybody's into it, right? And so many people, have stuck with this team over the course of the past 15, 20 years to very little, return, right? And so to just like see people genuinely really excited and having fun with it, it's cool. It's just, it's very different here in Minnesota, and it's cool to be a part of it, right? And kind of help lead some of the conversation.
Yeah, they say it's a hockey state, but it's actually the Vikings. I think we've discussed this before, but they're in the 70s, man. We didn't have an NBA team. We had the Gophers, and there are basketball fans like crazy in Minnesota. And because we struggled for so many years, we got 2 number 1 overall picks, and I think we hit on both of them, Karl Anthony Towns and Anthony Edwards. We're recording this on Friday before the ESPN game, hosting the Bucks. We have 7 games at home in a row. Late start. You notice a difference in the crowd with the late start?
Oh yeah, they're a little bit sauced up when they do the late and a weekend. Friday night against the Bucks, 9 p.m. start. Yeah. It'll be something.
I have a list of things I want to go over with you and get your reaction to, and I also want to hear your concerns, because the goal is to, of course, not to put too much pressure on the Wolves, is to get out of the first round, which is, we could face the Lakers or the Warriors in the first round. We don't know, but it's whoever it is, it's going to be tough because all the teams are good. Sacramento's good.
The Lakers or Warriors might be like 2 of the best options.
I know. Oh, that's what I want to ask you. First, let me get something off my chest. Tell me what you think. So it's the turnovers. Mm-hmm. A couple of years ago, it was rebound. Now it's turnovers. And here are my thoughts, and I want your reaction. So first of all, I don't think Jaden McDaniels or Naz Reid are good passers. Mm-hmm. But, you have to live with that a little bit. I think the term I want to use is an old term we used to use growing up called a floor game. He has a nice floor game. Mike Conley has a nice floor game. Heady, smart, doesn't turn it over, feels the game. So my big thing is, and I think we've cut down on it recently, but on the turnovers, but my thing is I need Cat and Ant to hear that term floor game. And to get to the next level, both of you guys, especially Ant, because he handles the ball all the time, improve your floor game, your feel for the game, not turning it over, etc. What do you think of that? The pressure's on those two, especially, to improve their floor game, cut down their turnovers. And is that the big Achilles heel right now with the Timberwolves?
I mean, it absolutely is. This, but maybe not all the listeners do. I mean, they've been, I think it was through January, they were 29th in turnover frequency, the amount that they turned the ball over, second most in the league. And it's just the killer, man. It's what's just not getting enough shots up in the course of the game, and the aggregate over the course of the season. And it's been a less efficient, less effective offense because of that. And I think, though, that's changed recently. If you look at the last, 3 weeks before the All-Star break, they're back up to like average in turnover frequency. And that's a major win for this team. They do that, and now all of a sudden they've been like a top 5 offense. It has been the thing that has been holding them back, and they've been trying to find that, right? We can all picture Ant or Cat driving into a crowd, not having the space to play that floor game. And I think that's what they've needed to be more intentional about, is like, how do we place these pieces on the chessboard so as to allow Ant to play a floor game, to allow Mike to play a floor game, Cat do that. And there's always going to be some things that get in the way of that, right? Rudy's not spacing out to the perimeter. He's always going to be, and his man are going to be somewhat in the way if he's not, setting the screen or something. And then Kyle Anderson has hurt that a little bit too. They've also there's a little bit less of like Cat just like lingering in the middle of the floor. He's doing more of like, okay, if I'm not involved in this, I'm going to the corner, I'm spacing to the top. And it's just leading to less of those Ant being just hounded and turning it over in the process.
I was going to ask you, have they told Cat, or are they running plays where he's shooting more threes in the corner? Because it seems like recently he is shooting more threes in the corner.
Yeah, it was funny. Probably, I don't know, November, December. And so like the spirits were high, and it was Rudy like jokingly saying it because the Wolves had the best record in the NBA at the time. But he's like, man, Cat needs to get his ass in the corner, and Cat was there and heard it, like kind of rolled his eyes. But I was sitting there and I'm like, kind of does, like, and that's how Rudy plays that too, right? Where he's like, I'm making a joke here, but I'm also kind of serious about it. And we've asked Finch about that, for the past couple of years of like, what is the balance of, just putting Karl there. And he's always been, hesitant to plant Karl in the corner, which I get,
Sure.
And Karl, if you are a top 30 player or whatever in the NBA, you don't like that relegation, right, into a role player kind of spot. So I get why it wasn't clean at the beginning, right? It's kind of had to be, Finch has had to realize maybe the offense just needs that a little bit more, and Karl has needed to accept that a little bit more. And it's not like he's just living there in the corner, right? But it's just a little bit more of a perimeter orientation. Let's decide to take the shot rather than the pump and go, like 1 or 2 more times a game. That I think just makes a huge difference for Karl and the offense.
If you balance it out, that really helps. I think it'll still happen in the playoffs where he'll be frustrating to watch because he forces drives. He tries to go through people. And one of the reasons he tries to go through people is because sometimes it's effective. Sometimes he gets all the way to the rim and then he gets fouled. Yeah. But he has to, if I could say anything to him, I say, improve your floor game, but also, Jokic does the little things. And I love Cat. I think he's fascinated with his offense the same way I am. His left hand is his jump hook and off the glass around the rim. And then his shooting touch is ridiculous. So he's a little obsessed with his game because it's pretty special. And he has to think more like Jokic. Jokic doesn't care how great he is. He'll do whatever it takes to win the little things. So when Cat does the offensive rebounding, grabbing that offensive rebound from Jimmy Butler, etc., those are some of the little things. And, obviously I can't wait for the playoffs. Let me ask you.
But Craig, can we give Cat a little bit of credit though, too?
Yes.
Because I always get into this cycle with Karl as well, where it's like, this thing bugs me, that thing bugs me. And we are here, 55 games into the season, and Karl has taken on the biggest role shift that anybody on this team has been asked to do. And it's not just playing power forward, it's guarding wings that he's being asked to do. And he's doing it. He's not great at that, right? That's not the best part of his game, but he's accepted it. And again, talking to Britt last night when we were doing the show, he said something of like, Karl is the star player who doesn't pull rank. And I really like that. There's all these things we can be annoyed with about Karl's game from time to time, but he really has just been like, yeah, I'm the star on this team, but I'm going to do what you ask me to do for the most part. And I'm going to be cool being the third guy sometimes, the third best player or second option at other times. He's handled that quite frankly, a lot better than I would have guessed it would have gone. And I just want to always make sure to like give him credit and acknowledge what the change in his game has been.
Yeah, he's improved and he has to keep improving. And I want you to know that I am a huge Karl Anthony Towns fan to the point where we know Ant is very special. But when Cat has a good game, I'm more excited than when Ant has a good game. I'm probably in the minority there. I think I have a loyalty to Cat because
it's just like longevity.
Yeah,
like,
I always say this. I didn't think he was when we drafted him. I didn't know he was going to shoot 54% for his first 3 years. I didn't. Yeah. I mean, it's ridiculous. So I'm a Cat fan, and I just get excited. He can sometimes score effortlessly. Other times it's arduous when he drives. But even Ant has said, "Oh, Cat can score easily. I got to do all this dribbling. Cat can just But I'm a huge Cat fan. But you have to be demanding. And
sure.
I wanted to ask you, I could be melodramatic here and say it was a turning point. If we win the championship, this was the turning point. When Finchie said that was a disgusting performance.
Yeah, I knew you were going to say
Charlotte game. So I loved it so much. What was your reaction?
Oh, dude, I was right there in front of it. And it's like, the post-game press conferences kind of go where it's the television people, ask the first couple of questions afterwards, and they work with the team, so it's like they always try and frame the question in a positive way, right? That's just that job. So it's the first question, and I don't remember who asked it or whatever it was, but it was trying to frame some positivity from that game. And Mitch just goes, "That was a disgusting performance of selfish basketball and defense." And I was just like, "Uh-oh." But I mean, look, they're 9-3 since that.
Well, here's my thing. Finchie, the players love Finchie. Finchie loves the players. He has to say that stuff. He has to hold them accountable. They need to be scolded. They need to be coached hard.
No problem with that.
No, I love it. I love it, and I think
the players didn't have a problem with it either.
Say it again.
The players didn't have a problem with it either. He said the same stuff to them in the locker room, and then came and said the same stuff to us in the press conference.
I loved it, and that's what I think. Finchie's doing an amazing job. The whole coaching staff. I know he's coaching his ass off because he's pushing and pushing and pushing these guys. And just for fun, this is my dream. In the first quarter, if we come out flat, I want him to pull a Popovich and sub out all 5 starters in the first 2 minutes. I always liked when Pop did that.
Yeah. Well, there has been like plenty of times, right, this year where it is one of those games that are just kind of like slipping away. The Wolves have had some fourth quarter struggles. And, to Fitch's credit, I don't know credit, but what he's done is he lets the guys play through it, right? Like he's never really once been like, all right, we're closing with a different group or anything like that. And I don't know, I wouldn't be able to have that discipline. I would be like, oh my God, here we go again. Like maybe not a whole hockey shift, but he's let them grow through that. And it's still like a concern, right, about this team. And when things bog down a little bit in the playoffs, because maybe that'll feel like fourth quarters. But Finch has let them play through it and learn in it, and maybe that gives us a little bit of confidence.
Yeah, so there were a couple games where we had some bad performances prior, and then I said, "Oh, we do bounce back." The game at Oklahoma City, I texted my friend. I said, "I think we're going to win tonight." And then I heard Mike Conley was sitting out, and I said, "Scratch that."
Yeah.
And then we won.
Yeah.
And true confession, full confession here. Don't get mad at me. I'm watching the game. We're playing pretty well. It's back and forth. And I said, I got to turn this off with 3 minutes left. I can't, I don't want to see this. I'll just check the final. Then I checked the final and I went berserk and I rewatched the last 5 minutes 3 times in a row that night. And then 3 times over coffee, 6 times total over coffee the next morning. And it was kind of a simple offense. Ant just was at the top, threw it to bounce in the corner or maybe a pass in the corner. Jaden hit a 3. Jaden got the left-handed tip. Naw made a nice mid-range. then the Ant dunk and everything. I don't know how good OKC's defense is, but that was one game where I went berserk and I said, this is great. And then I went to the Clipper game and I said, I think we're going to play well. Clips are good. Of course, they're struggling now, but we won. I couldn't believe we blew them out.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? So we do have something special. What are are the turnovers the biggest concern, or do you have other concerns? And I'm mainly talking in the playoffs now, if that's okay.
Yeah, I think the concerns are offense, right? And maybe from, a national perspective, or people who haven't got a chance to watch this as much and are going off a previous narrative, you're like, how can Gobert defend in the playoffs and all that sort of stuff. I mean, I'm really at the point, Craig, where I'm not too worried about the defense at all. Or like, I've just seen Rudy 50, 60 times this season be switched on to a guard in a one-on-one isolation and at least make the shot really difficult. I mean, how many times, maybe like a De'Aaron Fox or Tyrese Maxey have like burned him, but pretty much anybody who tries to get Rudy in a cross him up or he's just there and he can give them that space while still contesting the shot. Like, that's not an issue to me, Rudy defending in space. The issues are, the offensive side of the ball, which, to make it more than turnovers, the turnovers are like a product of ineffectively figuring out whose turn it is on the possession, right? And it's kind of hard to figure out whose turn it is on a given possession when you have two elite offensive players, Mike Conley and Rudy Gobert, kind of as a combination, make a third elite offensive option on that side of the floor. And it's like within that baton passing from one option to another, they get a little lost. And what I think is going to happen in the playoffs is teams are going to try to shut the water off of one of those options.
Well, they're going to double team Ant. They're going to trap him, and he has to figure that out.
But that's the Oklahoma City game, man, right? Like, that was where they put two on the ball. Ant gets to the middle of the floor. There's Jaden in the right corner, if I'm remembering correctly. Comes back down, and then it's the Nikhil in the left corner. He takes the pump, steps in for the mid-range shot. And then the third possession, if I'm remembering this correctly, was the Ant dunk on Shea, where the lane was open. Why was the lane open? Because Ant hit Jaden and Nikhil on the two possessions before.
The Nikhil one was interesting because it wasn't Ant. It was Cat on the right side, loping down to the right side, where it was, what's he going to do? The crowd thought he traveled, and he gets in the lane and kicks it to Nah, who pump fakes and then takes a 6.
I remember the Nikhil shot. I guess I didn't remember how it got there.
Yeah.
But it's having the corners. It goes back to the corner thing we were talking about. Like, establish that spacing so you have the lane open for Ant and Cat when it's open. I mean, those dudes are dynamic.
So I've always felt, since we lost game 5 in Denver, I said, we have to add a shooter. We have to add a shooter. And other people have said that.
Yeah.
We haven't necessarily added a shooter, but maybe we have. I want to talk about Monte Morris in a second. But first, my concern after the turnovers, which I think we'll clean up. And I do feel like sometimes the Wolves get locked in and they don't turn it over as much. But
for sure,
I don't know if we have enough offensive firepower, because our big three are, one of them is a defensive specialist. So do you think we have enough offensive firepower to compete with some of these teams?
I really do, Craig, because I think it is three things. It's not just Ant and Cat. The Mike and Rudy, where they just they empty the corner, right? And it's just that side pick and roll that we've seen hundreds of times this season with Gobert and Conley. Like, how do you guard that, right? Like, you can't bring a third guy over there, because then you're leaving the whole opposite side of the floor. They have to defend that Conley Gobert action with two people, and they've ran that so many times together that they know how to feel that out and find Rudy on the roll, or have Mike get in there for the floater or the step back three. Like that. That's why I think they have enough firepower, because Karl Anthony Towns has been, his whole career, when the Wolves are bad, the Wolves are still a top 10 offense just because of Cat, right? Mm-hmm. And then Ant is this other huge offensive weapon that you stack on top of that. Like, the issue to me isn't firepower. That's enough. Ant and Cat is enough right there. Plus you have Mike and Rudy. Like, I don't know. It's about fusing those things I don't know, connecting the fires to each other. That'll be the question in the playoffs.
The Mike Conley thing is a bit surprising to me that he's shooting a career high in threes, and it's effortless, the little sidestep three where if Rudy sets a pick, he can go either way, and he doesn't need much room, and it's a quick left-handed flick of the wrist. Not since
Beautiful.
Chris Mullen have I been this excited. But yeah, he's special. And then I believe if we're going to do well in the playoffs, the guys like Naw and Jaden and Nas are going to shoot well. That's how that's what's going to happen. But I might be putting too much pressure on Monte Morris, and I'll tell you why. I got excited when we got Shake Milton. I'm always looking, because a couple of years ago, I liked Jalen Noel a couple of years ago because you need a guy that can get buckets off the bench.
Yeah.
And then, of course, he struggled, and it was time to move on, and I was supportive of that. So I don't know how good Monte Morris is. I sure like his numbers. I sure like his field goal percentage numbers and low turnovers. So my thing is, sometimes in my head, it's early. I say he might be our best. He might be our best bench player, and I might be putting a lot of pressure on him here. Do we ever finish with Mike and Monte and Jaden on the bench?
No, I'm thinking about Monte as the ninth man at this point.
Okay.
Right? Like
I'm too excited about him. I'm sorry. I'm just excited.
I think the Monte Morris acquisition is a great insurance policy, right? Like what would happen or what would have happened this season if Mike Conley rolled his ankle and was out for 3 weeks at any point prior to the trade deadline, right? You have Jordan McLaughlin and Kyle Anderson are your only kind of point guard option, and Nickeil Alexander-Walker there too. But
I'm the biggest Deshaun Knicks fan in the world. I'll save that for a few years down the road.
I do like Deshaun Knicks too, but they didn't have a true backup point guard for like a good team. And all of those guys, Nickeil, J-Mac, and Kyle Anderson are like weird point guards, right? They got Monte Morris, who is the best like discount version of Mike Conley, right? That's the idea of the whole move is Mike Conley, he's 36. He's not playing heavy minutes in the regular season. So now can you have it so one of Mike Conley or Monte Morris are on the floor at all times over the course of the game? That should help your turnovers go down. That should just give you some more of that consistency. So I'm not looking at him as like a elevate into the starting lineup or becoming more than a 15-minute role, because I don't think they need that.
Okay.
They have firepower on the bench. I mean,
right.
Nas and Nickeil's been super consistent all year. Maybe Kyle Anderson can get a little bit more of a rhythm now that the trade deadline's passed and he kind of knows he's here. Can he get back to himself there? The ninth man, it's not a huge, I don't think, expectation from him.
Okay, so let me just say a couple more things about why I like Monte Morris. It's the honeymoon period. I'm looking for help. It's just like when we got Shake Milton, I said, great, we need this.
Mm-hmm.
So everyone loves Nas. And my theory is if his name was Joe Reed, he would not be as popular. I think a lot of it's his first name.
Oh,
Nas.
come on. No.
But he can handle the ball as far as dribbling. He's not a great passer. I like him. Everyone else loves him. I've seen him sometimes throw up some wild shots. But at the same time, I've been very surprised that every time he comes off the bench, he usually hits his first 2 threes.
He does, right?
So that's very positive. Yeah. But I guess what I'm saying is we use the term basketball players. It's floor game. If I had to rank the floor game of the Timberwolves, I would say Mike Conley's 1 and Monte Morris might be 2 over Kyle Anderson and Jordan McLaughlin. I only have 4 guys with good floor games.
What about Nas? Nas doesn't have good floor games?
No, he can't pass. I don't want everyone. I don't want to say he can't pass. That's not.
He can't pass on the move.
Yeah, he can turn it over a little bit.
Yeah,
but he dribbles well. But he doesn't mean a floor game is decision making. He'll just go wildly and spin in there and throw up a left-handed shot.
Yeah, okay, that's fair.
All right, and I usually limit floor games to point guards or guys or sometimes 2 guards. But obviously, Kyle Anderson has a floor game because he's a good passer.
Mm-hmm.
So maybe I'm putting too much pressure on Monte Morris, and I haven't seen him play that much. I'm just looking for a glimmer of hope to help the team offensively.
Yeah, can he just make open threes, right? And be that like I mean, that's what was killing him, man. At the beginning of the year, you'd be playing lineups where Gobert would be out there, Kyle Anderson would be out there, and Jordan McLaughlin would be out there. That's 3 players that they are not guarding on the perimeter. That is, I mean, and that's hard. You
Right.
talk about good luck having any floor game if that's the case, right? So I think Monte simply being like a guy who, when he's standing in the corner, you kind of got to be around him. That in and of itself is a win for the second unit for the Wolves, because that was not happening when it was Jordan McLaughlin.
Before the trade deadline, as you're sitting there in the mild winter this year in Minneapolis,
Right.
did you ever have a moment, a dream like I did, where you said, can they call Ricky? Can they call Ricky Rubio? Did you ever think that in the back of your mind or not?
Well, I mean, at that time, I think Ricky was going through some difficult things.
Right. No, I'm saying a couple weeks ago, right before the trade deadline.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah. Well, he's playing now.
I know. That's what I'm saying. I'm a Rubio fan. I like his energy.
Can you imagine if that happened? People would lose their mind.
I know. That's what I'm saying. And anyways, I didn't know. I wonder if Tim Connelly ever considered that, you know? Do you know, because I'm cool standing pat, do you know if they'll add any buyout players, or they're thinking about it? Because I don't know who you take out of the rotation then.
Yeah, well, that's what I've heard the issue is, right? Is they kind of know who their 9 guys are in the rotation. So a lot of buyout, like, they don't have a great pitch to a buyout guy other than we're a good team.
Right.
They can't be like, we're a good team and here's 15 minutes a night, So, Marcus Morris was a name that's been on there, like an Evan Fournier or something like that. If that player got bought out and the Wolves signed them, they would become the 10th, 11th man on this team. And I'm not sure that's what they want, right? They maybe they just want to play. So it would need to be, if they get somebody, which they probably will, it's going to need to be somebody who's cool with not having like a guaranteed 15 minutes a night.
So I'm going to ask you, I think I have a different perspective on this. I know fans panic. I don't think it's going to happen, but what is your reaction, Dane Moore, if the Wolves get bounced in the first round?
Like, what is my thought of the path moving forward?
No, first, I think it's I want to hear what your reaction is. I was going to say as a fan, but you're an analyst as well. Has the sky fallen, or what do you think if they lose in the first round? Or maybe I should tell you my thoughts that might stimulate you a little bit.
Sure.
So because of, talk radio and media and X Twitter and everything, it becomes a thing. It's like, I lived in LA for a long time. The Clippers are cursed is the word they use. Cursed. That was with prior ownership mostly, but so my thing is this: I have to see how we play. I have great respect for Anthony Davis. I have great respect for Steph Curry. I have to see how we play, and we don't want to lose in the first round. The goal for me is to get to the Western Conference Finals and then see what happens, or we could say finals if you want to.
Mm-hmm.
But I just think we're doing what we should be doing in the regular season. And we're playing very well. Now, I do think early on, schedule-wise, we were playing people at home like the Nuggets and the Celtics, and they were playing on back-to-backs. We were also playing teams that had guys sitting out. Lucas sat out. And so I said, we're fortunate with our schedule here. I can see, because I just wanted to finish in the top 4, and that's where we're probably going to finish, somewhere in the top 4. So I think my reaction will not be the same as other people if we get bounced in the first round, because I think there's this growth period, and we know we have some issues. That being said, I don't think we're going to get bounced in the first round. I think Ant's going to take it to a higher level. He's special that way. So I guess I'll ask you, who do you not want to face in the first round?
Well, let me react to the idea of the loss first.
Yes.
And I think it's interesting to talk about this in like that Mike Conley just signed an extension, right? Like it's not over if
Right.
they lose it. Now it comes down to how much are Mark Lore and Alex Rodriguez going to be willing to pony up in terms of a luxury tax payment to, keep this thing together and have, a Kyle Anderson come back is going to come add a lot on your luxury tax, or Monte Morris, that sort of thing. But they can keep the group together. I mean, Rudy's under contract for 2 more years. Mike Conley's under contract for 2 more years. Ant and Jaden are under contract for 5 more years, and Carl's under contract for 4 more years. So it's not like you run the risk of somebody leaving in free agency, at least from your starting lineup. So if the worst case scenario happens and they lose in like the 1-8 or 2-7, something like that, I think you can, and depending on how they lose, right, like you said, and how they play and look there, you can still go into next season and be like, all right, we have another shot at it right now. And then if we lose it again, it might be like tear it down to the studs, Ant, Jaden, Nas,
Right.
whatever, in that sort of way. But there's a lot of pressure on this season in the playoffs.
There is.
But there's not like, I don't think we're at the end of the road, if that makes sense, of this iteration of this team. A lot, like somebody would need to be on the roster would need to be so mad that they lost in the way that they lost that they'd be like, I want to get out of here.
Right.
And that's probably the most encouraging thing to me about this entire season with this group is nobody has that energy. Like all the players in there genuinely seem like they want to be there. They don't care that it's Minnesota. Like they're excited about what they have built here and what it could be going forward. So I don't know. Yeah, they got to win in the first round. Like they
definitely have to. And sometimes I think I don't really worry. I did at the beginning because I have so much respect for. I respect LeBron and AD and Steph Curry, and I don't like Draymond, but I know that if we face those guys, not to whine or complain, that those other teams will get a better whistle. I already got that, but there's a part of me that thinks the Wolves are special enough this year where they're going to definitely make sure they get out of the first round. They're going to, that's kind of what I think. And I don't want to put too much pressure on. I was a little bit of an elephant in the room because, everyone's, but I guess what I was saying is I won't be as disappointed as other fans because I'm realistic and I know how good we are. I mean, the team we lose to might get to the Western Conference Finals, but that's anyway. So
but with the Warriors and the Lakers, like, what are the odds when we sit down? If that's the 1-8, it's the Wolves are playing one of those two teams. That like the Wolves are the favorites in that. Yeah, they're gonna be betting what up. I mean, some people will pick the Lakers and Warriors on pedigree or whatever, but like,
who would you rather face between those two teams in the first round?
I'm kind of in the boat that size gives the Wolves more problems. It kind of negates a little bit of their main advantage. Like the Wolves are big and long, but sometimes they struggle with force a little bit. And I think the Lakers can go a lot bigger. I mean, the Warriors will play you hard and physical, but the Wolves are just going to have a size advantage in that series the whole time. I don't know. I think we're doing LeBron and Steph, right? And then we're asking what are the surrounding pieces? Anthony Davis as the number 2, considering that he is big and forceful and can hit that mid-range shot, kind of pull Rudy out a little bit.
Yeah.
Like that's a little bit worse of a matchup to me. But really, honestly, Craig, those two teams I'm not worried about. I'm really not. It's the other teams up the ladder that are probably second round teams that I would be like, okay, maybe this other team is favored here, or maybe it's more 50-50. It's like 75-25 Wolves against the Lakers or Warriors, I would think.
I'm starting to not worry about who we're going to play even in the second and third round because they're all pretty good. OKC doesn't. I guess the beating Jokic would be the biggest challenge probably because he's so gifted. But the Clippers are just hot and cold. The Warriors are on a run right now, as you probably know.
Yeah.
Have you heard of a guy named Eric Schmidt? Former Google CEO Eric Schmidt is among those joining Alex Rodriguez and Mark Lore in the next round of their step-by-step purchase of the Timberwolves. Is that name come up in the Twin Cities?
Well, Eric I just Schmidt? Know that they've been getting, other partners to come in and because because to be a majority owner, you just need to have 51%, right? And by the time the Wolves complete this next payment, I think they'll be up to 80%. So then you can basically, what is that? You have 29% that you can kind of sell off in terms of valuation there, which maybe, that gets them more cash on hand, not just to pay the luxury tax, but maybe to start financing some building of a new stadium and that sort of thing. So I think there will be, I haven't heard specifics about him. I don't know anything about Eric Schmidt in particular.
Yeah,
but
it seems
there's going to be
like-
a couple names like that.
Yeah, he's very wealthy, and I just wonder why it wasn't bigger news that he's been added.
Just because it's a minority guy.
Yeah,
Like a minority ownership. There's a bunch of guys who own, a couple percentages of a team here. It's a good investment. I mean, the way that those things are elevating in value over the course, it's one of the best investments out there right now as a professional sports team, particularly an NBA team. So I think it's more about that. Those people are getting involved to, one, say they're a partial owner of a team, but also it's just kind of a good money investment problem.
back to last night, you were out at a brewery, and you had Britt Robson, who I really enjoy his writing and his vocabulary. He actually tweeted once that he had misused a word. He said, "Oh, I said this word, but I looked up the dictionary definition and it was a little different," which happens as we use words. I used the word penurious once because I read it in Sports Illustrated about Dr. J had the same pants he had as a rookie year with the Squires. He had them with the Nets in the ABA. And I thought it meant more frugal, but I think it's poor. But anyways, it's very close.
That might have been a Britt Robson article. He used to write for Sports Illustrated.
Oh, really? That'd be hilarious. So what were some of the questions? I listened. I'm going to listen to the whole thing. I listened to the first 20 minutes, heard a couple questions. What were the concerns from the Wolves fans last night?
Well, man, it's always funny doing these live shows. Me and you did a live show there at that brewery one time too. And it's funny in my mind to think back to what the questions have been. I've probably done 5 or 6 of them there over the course of the Gobert era or whatever. And man, like this time last year when we did it, it was just like anger, right? The questions were anger. Like they didn't even want me to frame it in a positive way. They're pissed if I would frame it in a positive way, So now it's just, I think it's people, excited about what can this team's record be for the final 27 games of this season? A lot of the things that we're talking about, how good can the offense be? But then there is, being a crappy team for a long time, I think spawns some of that NBA nerddom, right?
Yeah.
And which is fun. I myself included, I do that stuff, thinking about the offseason and down the road and the salary cap. And I think it's the Wolves fan base is very well versed in that, being a bad team for a long time. So they're thinking about, okay, well, Mike Conley signed this. How long can we keep this together? Is someone going to have to go? And those are the questions I think people are asking when they look with more of the long view. And the hard thing is because I don't know about the Google CEO or Mark Lowry or Alex Rodriguez. Like I can't give people answers because it really just comes down to, are they going to pay a ridiculous tax bill or not? Like that's all this comes down to. The Warriors have chosen to do that and paid ridiculous tax bills year over year, and it's helped them. But it's also, they're the Golden State Warriors in San Francisco, and they have a stadium that's printing money in a way that Target Center, like the oldest stadium, or maybe worst stadium in the NBA, isn't. So it's those type of existential kind of questions, are like, can this stay together? And I think, we don't know for sure, but I haven't gotten really any strong indications that A-Rod or Lori are going to like cheap out on this,
right,
in any sort of way. So,
exciting news! It's called Factor. Factor's delicious, ready-to-eat meals make eating better every day. So simple, so easy. Wherever tomorrow takes you, be ready with pre-prepared, chef-crafted, and dietitian-approved meals delivered right to your door. Ladies and gentlemen, you'll have over 35 different options a week to choose from, including keto, calorie smart, vegan and veggie, and plenty more. Enjoy over 55 nutrition-packed add-ons that help make your weekly meal planning extra delicious. What are you waiting for? Get started today and have a feel-good week of meals ready to go. including 2-minute meals. Fuel up fast with Factor's restaurant quality meals that are ready to heat and eat wherever you are. Snacks, smoothies, and more. Discover a wide variety of easy options for the entire day, like breakfast, midday bites, and more. Sign up and save. We've done the math, people. Factor is less expensive than takeout, and every meal is dietitian approved to be nutritious and delicious. Factor is the perfect solution if you're looking for fast upscale options done easily. Flexible for your schedule. Get as much or as little as you need by choosing 6 to 18 meals per week. Plus, you can pause or reschedule your delivery anytime. No prep, no mess meals. Factor meals are 100% ready to heat and eat, so there's no prepping, cooking, or cleanup needed. Head to factormeals.com/Kilborn50 and use code Kilborn50 to get 50% off. That's code Kilborn50 at factormeals.com/Kilborn50 to get 50% off. I'm proud of you. I've said this before, and it's like when KG first went to Boston with the big three with Ray Allen and Paul Pierce, and I was like, go now, go now, and go now. Win now, win now, win now. Because you don't know what's going to happen after that. And they won their first year, and then that was it. But they did get back, and they were still good. So my thing is, because of the age of Rudy and Mike Conley, and I don't see a juggernaut out there as an opponent. If we are going to win a championship, which is hilarious that we're actually talking about that, do it this year is my thing. Do it this year. And I think one of the big reasons, I think this is kind of obvious, is Rudy is moving infinitely better than he did last year. It looks like he's more mobile. And I keep hearing that they didn't use him this way in Utah. So when you earlier said, I don't worry about Rudy getting played off the floor, I don't either. I'm concerned when he is off the floor defensively because he's been so dominant.
Yeah.
But it'll be interesting to see what Finchie does in the playoffs. I told you my thing is I want to see a lot of Monte Morris because I'm optimistic. I'm in that honeymoon period.
Right.
But just trying to think of. I wish the playoffs were here now.
Well, but don't you think okay? Here's where I'm at with it. Is like 27 games ago, post All-Star break period of time, and my view of where this team can go in the playoffs is going to be about what I see this final stretch. Can you be a top 10, top 5 offense in this final stretch? If you can do that, I am picking this team pretty irregardless of opponent to win in the first round and maybe in the second round. That has been my only hesitation all season, has been the offense's effectiveness, and it hasn't been good all year. They've been a below average offensive team in any metric you look at, So if that can switch and turn, which, as you know, Finch teams, right, have kind of been significantly better offensively in the second half of seasons for one reason or another, historically, if that can come, then then let's drop the possibility of them losing to the Lakers or the Warriors in the first round. It's just assuming the worst.
And I bring it up for the fans that are panicking. I'm saying I was doing this at the beginning of the year. I said, we're in first place. All anyone cares about is the first round, which is short-sighted. Yeah. But so I'm not. I'm going with the flow. I'm enjoying it. Does Finchie get frustrated with you when do you hammer him in the post game with the offense struggling?
It's just been the same thing over and over again. So when myself or anybody has been asking him about it, we're talking about it, he's just like, I don't know what to tell you. We're just turning the ball over. We're not executing. We're not doing those things. And I think some fans have some frustration with him when he does that, of yo, dude, you're the coach. You can help here some. And I think that's true. But at some point, right, when Ant just decides to barrel down and not read the floor, it's not going to work as well. Finch, this isn't a video game, right? You can't hit B and pass the ball for him. So, I don't know. I think he's frustrated with the offense. He's an offensive dude, man. That's his thing, right?
You just said something that I forgot to say, but we know Anthony Edwards is extra special, but he didn't go to North Carolina and play for Dean Smith. I don't think he'll ever be fully fundamentally sound And I'm pleased at how much he's learning as he was just a raw guy, raw athletic guy who's learned, how to play, and he's getting better and better. But it's, Dwayne Wade turned the ball over because he would always try to split the double team. And I'm the guy that hates turnovers. I hate turnovers.
Mm-hmm.
And Steph Curry's loose with the ball and he turns it over. So I'm not, as long as the coaches say to Ant, you have to improve your floor game, your decision making, and then you'll go to the next level, we're fine.
Can I ask you something? What did you make of I don't know if you saw, I think they talked about it on the broadcast, and I've talked about it a little bit too, but they've done the thing where they switch so the offense is in front of their bench at the end of games.
Yeah.
Have you seen that? Like, it seems like sort of a silly thing. It was Rudy Gobert's idea. Pretty much every team chooses to have their defense in front of them in the second half when they can, but the Wolves have switched recently to having their offense there. And I didn't really think much of it at first. I'm like, oh, whatever. But then the player's like, no, now we can hear Finch, and he can kind of be the video game controller a little bit more of like, no, Ant, you're here, Jaden, you're there. And they started doing that right before the break and won their last 4 or 5 games. So it's kind of interesting, random basketball thing that I'm not sure totally matters, but you think it matters because it's been working recently. I thought it was interesting.
Yeah, I know it was Rudy who wanted it, and I wasn't sure why. But if you're saying if it's because it's better communication with the coach, and we were struggling on offense anyway, especially the last few minutes of the game, then it makes complete sense.
Yeah.
And if I was the opponent, I would maybe adjust that. I'm not sure. How does that work? They have the choice when they're the road team. The
road team gets to choose which way they're going to start the game, which means you get to choose the way you're going to finish the game too. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess Milwaukee tonight when they play them, they will be the road team and they will have the choice,
right?
And they always choose defense in front of themselves, at the end of games. So then they would be giving the Wolves what the Wolves now want.
Yeah,
is Doc going to play some 3D chess here and do that? I don't think we're at that stage yet. So I think it's a situation where at all home games, you'll be given your offense in front of you at the end of the games, and then they can choose on the road to take that as well. I don't know. We'll see if it ends up being a trend, but it certainly is right now.
There was
Rudy's so happy about it.
Right.
He's so happy about it.
We want Rudy happy.
Yes, exactly.
There was something else Finchie said maybe earlier in the year or midway through the year, post game. He said, we're not going to have a player with 14 assists in a game because they move the ball.
Yeah, okay.
And we were turning it over, and I'm like, God, I miss the days of Ricky and John Stockton. Because when Mike Conley turns it over, I'm saying, I'm okay with that. Yeah. I'm okay with that. Mm-hmm. But when the other guys do it, I roll my eyes. But I do love the ball movement of the Spurs with Ginobili and Duncan and everything. It's just that I don't know about how skilled our guys are passing wise.
Right. Like it happens sometimes, right? Where you're like, wow, that was awesome. And nobody dribbled. Right?
Yeah.
That's
if they're simple, like that time at Chicago, we shouldn't have lost that game, but they swung it around and then Jaden threw it to Cat for the 3 that tied the game. That was beautiful.
Mm-hmm.
I think what happens with some of the players, including Ant, is the penetrate and cross court pass gets stolen.
Mm-hmm.
Those are tricky. So we'll see. But and let me just say something, Dane. I am so ecstatic and fired up for this season and this team. I went straight into the problems. But is this the greatest moment of your life, the Timberwolves playing this year? I mean, what?
No, I mean, now I grew up here and now I do it for a job. So I'm kind of thinking about it through that lens. But I will say it makes the job way easier and way more fun. Like I've been covering this team since the full time. I've been covering it since the Jimmy disaster year. The Jimmy practice was like my first full-time day of work. And so I've been in a lot of sticky locker rooms, or just locker rooms where it's like, all right, you lost your 8th in a row. Like, Carl, why did you what happened tonight? Yeah. And it's just cool it's more fun to go in the locker room after the game. Right. And whether it's the on the record conversations when we have the microphones all there, or just the players are more, they're just in a better mood, which
Yeah.
is so they're interested in talking to you and asking a little bit more. They're not like, oh, here comes the media, So it's been fun, and like I said, I feel a real connection to the people here and that are enjoying this team. So to that end, it's been really fun to just watch people get excited but also freak out a little bit. It's like, man, every day is a
Yeah.
whirlwind of emotions
Some of
for the
the
fan base.
yeah. And there is a harmony amongst the teammates. I don't worry about Ant and Cat. I mean, I already know they're good friends, but you know, I'm such a Cat fan that when he's standing above the 3-point arc wide open, I'm like, get him the ball. 'Cause the only time he misses threes sometimes is when he rushes it a little bit.
Yeah.
But he's such a great shooter. And I'm telling you, man, Ant misses him a lot because Ant's
Yeah.
getting ready to go 1-on-2 or
No, that's a good
1-on-3.
point.
And I never see Cat go, come on, man. He accepts that Ant's gonna be Ant.
Yeah.
But I do think, especially
who's that on though? Is that on Finch to be like, yo, Ant, do this? Or like, can Carl as more of the vet be,
well, I would say my initial reaction is because Finchie's got to say, hey, make sure you see Cat. He's wide open. He's wide
Right.
open.
Yeah.
And then, I mean, Cat might not want to say anything. I don't know. I don't know the dynamic there. But the coaches, I was going to ask you, do you know how that works with the coaches? Because you can't have so many voices in your ear. Did I ever tell you the story where the year that the Wolves, back in 2004 when KG was the MVP, they were out here for a game, and I was actually having dinner with Flip Saunders, the late great Flip Saunders, and Fred Hoiberg was on the team. He was at dinner with us, and Randy Whitman and Jerry Seasting.
Yeah.
And I said, so sometimes KG at the foul line, he'll not enough arc. He won't shoot it enough. He'll kind of line drive. He just has to do that. And Randy Whitman goes, you want to tell him that? You want to tell him that?
Yeah, that's good.
And then
That's
I'm like, I asked, I mean, how does that work? Because you can't have three coaches saying, hey, Rudy, breathe a little more at the free throw.
Right.
So do you know, what's the dynamic? Because I think I heard Finchie say that he really leans on the assistant coaches at times, which is good because, as Chuck Daly said, they get tired of hearing my voice. So do you know how the dynamic works with the coaches and how that unfolds?
I will say this, and I don't know. I mean, it came out yesterday, so I'm not sure if you've seen it. This isn't me plugging my own thing, but Britt Robson, who we were talking about before, reported out, and he talked to everyone on the coaching staff and wrote a piece on how that works.
Oh, that's right. I have to read that. I saw that.
It's good, man.
Yeah.
I mean, and like I just from kind of having been around, like I knew some of that stuff. There was plenty of stuff in that article that I didn't know as well. So I think for Wolves fans who are kind of interested in this whole idea, to your question of like, how does this all work? It's really laid out in that article. That's at minpost.com. But it is the Chuck Daly, not too many, like, don't let them get sick of my voice. And Elston Turner is the defensive coordinator of this team. So he's talking about how they're playing defense in the half court. Corliss Williamson, who actually won the championship in 2003, 2004 for the Detroit Pistons, he's in charge of transition defense and rebounding. They got it really like almost football teamed out in terms of very specific things, yet everyone kind of commingles in a way there too that I mean, I think it really works with this group, just from having talked to the players and how much they do seem to really embrace and enjoy this coaching staff. And Finch, I think that's part of Finch's greatness, is being able to put a group of people together and empower them and connect with them and be like, okay, you might connect well with Jaden McDaniels, Corliss Williamson, you might do this with Cat, whatever. Like that is coming together. And at the end of the day, like, Finch is the heavy, right? And if he wants to have the Randy Whitman conversation, like, that comes down to Finch, right? Like, you gotta. But I think the thing is with Ant in particular, is as good as Ant is, and as much as he's growing, there's still like 5 or 6 elements of his game where you kind of got to nag him a little bit.
Yep.
So maybe you got to kind of pecking order that out. Do we want to needle Ant to get the ball to Cat a little bit more? Or do we want to needle Ant to like stay awake on defense when his man is cutting off ball? You know, like I think that there's a little bit of a balance there.
Who tells him, and it doesn't matter who it is in this case, but does it get through to Ant? Because the complaining it's not Luka territory yet.
Yeah.
And the same with Cat. It's not Luka territory, but the complaining to the refs is counterproductive.
Yeah.
It's going to bite him in the ass in the playoffs.
Right.
Do the coaches harp on that a lot?
Well, what they do is they harp on the fact and lump Cat and Ant in this. Like when they do that, well, Ant, when he goes to the basket, thinks he gets fouled and they don't blow the whistle. We know what it is. He claps at him and holds his hands up while he's half running back on defense. And what happens on every one of those possessions? Okay, now it's 5-on-4 the other way for the other team. So it's giving the other team points. And Carl does the same thing. He flails and falls over. Now, I do think both of those guys are doing that less, right?
Right.
Like that's happening
I do agree.
bit less.
Yes.
But
thank God.
In the playoff, because this team, honestly, Craig, the one thing I'm concerned about is this team does believe that the refs are out to get them.
Yeah.
And I don't know. I don't think we're in a good place in refereeing in the NBA right now. But I think that's a dangerous thing to have in your right.
You know what I don't? Yeah. You know what I don't understand? I'm going to get specific here. I'm going to get granular here. So Jokic, I swear to God, and I just saw a highlight of him clobbering Valanciunas or something, but I think that's who it was. He's obviously very hard to guard. So Cat actually plays him pretty well, but he'll just pound. He will pound his shoulder into, and they never call an offensive foul on Jokic. Yeah. And if Cat does it, it's obviously an offensive foul because I think Cat uses too much of the arm. It's the whole body of
Jokic kind of like walruses himself.
Yes.
On
yes.
you
That's
know?
a great verb. And you came up with that, not Britt. Walruses. And did he say that last night? Did he say that?
No, I just made that up, I think.
So it's like, and then of course the other one, as Ant has pointed out, is Shea.
Yeah.
He'll dribble and he gets bumped and his head snaps back and he goes to the free throw line. Now I don't want to get into this because it's counterproductive, but those two guys, Ant and Cat, do not get the benefit of the doubt when they get contact when they drive.
I think it's two different things though. Like I think you said the Cat one, like we know what it is. Like it's too flaily, it's too much arm, it's too much.
Yeah.
I think with Ant, it's actually that he's too strong.
Yeah.
And explosive.
Like LeBron. Yeah.
Yeah. Like it's not as obvious when he is hit, right? Because it doesn't, if Ant is like full speed downhill, he's just boom.
What about the dunk at OKC when he grabbed his arm and they said it's marginal?
Well, again, Ant didn't do himself any favors. He said cheating ass refs after the game. I mean, it's like that's why I would assume that's why they didn't, say that was wrong after the game. But I don't know. And it's got to be maddening, right? To be when you are on the team that doesn't get the star whistle or the big market whistle. I get it. You and I would be frustrated in that situation, but it does feel like one of those like Rudy Gobert, Mike Conley, like, okay, Zen, let's take a deep breath. Like actually what Rudy said one time when it was after that Chicago game, he's like, look, here's the deal. The refs are bad and they're not going to get better. And we need to move on accordingly. He said that after the
that's
Chicago
smart because in a game where you complain, you just have to play better. If you want to win, just play better than the opponent and just ignore them. And
they
maybe
just get so bad when they lose their head.
And let the coach go crazy. Let the coach go crazy.
Yeah, Finch could get a T.
Yeah. Right? He already has a T-shirt. How many Finchy He's My Dog T-shirts do you have?
I just saw that when I was in Portland last week for the game, and Mike Conley put it on. And I was like, I got to take a picture of that, Mike. And isn't that cool? I mean, that is. It is cool how the shirt is funny if you like zoom in on it's all of Finch's like exasperated faces.
I heard the
sidelines.
joke that they were
Oh,
trying to
so
decide this is
Yeah.
a Jaden turnover, this is a Cat offensive foul, etc. All right, brother. I'm going to keep it tight. Let's go to the Life Gorgeous quiz. Simple questions, profound insights. And who was my favorite player growing up? Do you know Dr. J or Larry Bird? Who was my favorite player growing up?
I would think you were more of a shooter than a dunker, I would imagine. So I'll go with Bird.
Yeah, most people think it was Bird. In fact, one of my emails years ago was Bird stole the ball. But it was, in fact, Dr. J. There was a time I hated Larry Bird. I loved him at Indiana State. Then he went to the Celtics. I was a Dr. J fan.
Mm-hmm.
And then after Doc retired in 1987, I became a Larry fan again. So I love Larry. But when I was a kid, it was the afro, the dunking, the big hands, the finger rolls. And it was Dr. J. Dr. J was my favorite player growing up.
Do you know who shares that opinion with you?
Finchy, because he grew up outside of Philadelphia.
Yeah. Dr. J was sitting by the Wolves or the Western All-Stars bench, and Finch said he got a picture with Dr. J at the game. That's got to be a crazy thing for him,
Yeah.
Right?
Dr. J, Julius Winfield Irving, his wife's name was Turquoise.
Is that
This is
true?
the kind of trivia.
Okay, I would not get that.
Next question. Will Kirk Cousins be the Vikings quarterback next season?
Seems like maybe not, right?
Do you follow the Vikes?
I mean,
you're in Minnesota. You have to.
Yeah, in the season. I don't know. It's like I love the offseason in the NBA. In the NFL, I can't get into it.
Okay.
I don't know. Like maybe the NBA just like jams it all right in there the first sort of 10 days of July, and you're like, okay, like have your Woj notifications on or whatever. But I have not been tracking it too much other than it seems like, what are the options? Who, like, if it isn't Kirk, what happens? Draft someone?
Can I tell you?
Yeah. Yes.
The rumors. These are just the rumors out there.
Give it to me.
So even if they re-sign Kirk for 2 years or 3 years, they want to try to move up from 11 in the draft to draft, Jaden Daniels or Drew May or JJ McCarthy.
Right.
So they want to draft a quarterback of the future. If they lose Kirk, here's a funny name. They draft a QB, they get a rookie QB, and then they get a bridge quarterback. And one of the names I heard, I don't know how much you follow the NFL.
No, I follow the NFL.
Okay, his name is Sam Darnold. He's got an arm and he's a backup for the 49ers. Yeah. So it'd be something like that. But anyway, so
I just want to get back to and this is not smart football anything. When I fell in love as a kid with the Vikings, it was Randall Cunningham and Dante Culpepper and just the excitement that kind of came through that, and I feel like I know Kirk's not a bad quarterback, but just as the here for funsies fan, like Kirk has done so much to just make me not care about it because it's so hard for me to believe in or care about a team where I think they just sort of have a little bit of a glass ceiling there when that's
the problem with Kirk, because he's a very accurate passer and he was playing his best football and our offensive line was doing very well. He's just not mobile enough, and it just changes the equation when Brock Purdy can run for a first down. Yeah. And it just, when you have a mobile quarterback, doesn't have to be a running quarterback, but Aaron Rodgers could run for the first down. Obviously, Patrick Mahomes is the best and he can run. So you need somebody who's more mobile than Kirk, and that's just the way it is. It bothers me that these guys, and that's also JJ and TJ Hawkinson and their agents, all want to be the highest paid tight end, the highest paid non-quarterback. And don't you guys want to win a Super Bowl? I mean,
look at Mike Conley, man.
Look at Mike Conley. I think Tim Duncan did that in San Antonio. I think he took less.
Maybe a little bit later.
Yeah.
I don't know. I mean, now he has a torn Achilles. So if you're right and that his mobility was a factor, that certainly is not going to be better next.
Right. His thing is I don't run anyway, so it doesn't affect me. I'm a pocket passer. That's what he says.
Yeah.
Two more questions. Better snack. We're a little food question here.
Let's go.
Chocolate chip cookies or white cheddar popcorn? Better snack.
I would go white cheddar popcorn.
Oh, I like that. I did this for me because that's my downfall. White cheddar popcorn. I don't have a sweet tooth. Savory over sweet. Why did you say white? You don't like chocolate? You don't like sweets or what?
I'm not, there's a time and a place for it, but like, I feel like I can have like one cookie. I can crush like a whole bowl of, white cheddar popcorn, I think. And we were on Reuben's too, right? That was on the show.
Yeah,
right?
I did. I like that stuff. I like that stuff. I cut down the drinking one vodka a week, which is great. I feel better. And I do intermittent fasting where I won't eat until 12 noon or even 2 sometimes. But if I do buy the bag of white cheddar popcorn, sadly, I have to finish it. And I'm not proud of that. I'm not proud of that.
Are you going to adjust your one vodka a week rule for the playoffs?
It's a great question. And normally when I do, I'll call it vacation, I do have a few more. I never have back-to-back in one night, but I might have every other day or something like that. And the other thing I wanted you to know, I'm planning on doing this. This is tricky. People say, when are you coming out for a game? And I said this all summer last year, and I'm saying it now. I'm coming out for the second round.
Okay, let's go.
There's the pressure.
Let's do it.
Final question. Final question for Dane Moore. How far will the Timberwolves go this year in the playoffs? What's your prediction? Not what you want. What's your prediction?
I think they win in the first round, and unless they get the right matchup, lose in the second round.
Okay.
But I did do my caveat earlier of if the offense sustains what it's been for the past 2-3 weeks, and that looks more like what their offense is going into the playoffs, then then my prediction will be they win 2 rounds. But I'm not there yet. I need to like a lot of that was against Portland, going into the break. Like, let's see if this offense can sustain. Let's see that. And then, but yeah, my conservative prediction would be that they do win in the first round. Because like I said, man, if it's the Lakers or Warriors or I don't know who else, I guess Sacramento, New Orleans,
Dallas, Phoenix.
I'd rather take the Lakers and Warriors than any of those teams in the first round.
I'm going to be optimistic with a caveat because I can, and say they're going to get to the Western Conference Finals as long as they don't play Denver in the second round.
Yeah, that's the one. That's going to be interesting. Come the like final weeks of the season, the little bit of leveraging position. I think they play the Nuggets 3 times in the final, maybe 8 or 10 games of the season.
I did not know that. I didn't look that up.
Yeah. So they got a lot of man. Come out to Denver. I'll be there. That's been really informative to me in all seriousness over the course of the season of like actually seeing this Wolves team play against these other teams that, I'm watching on League Pass, and I'm seeing a lot of the Thunder. I've seen a lot of the Clippers, and, you're like, damn, like the Clippers and Thunder, they're good. And then the Wolves beat them,
I know.
And so we haven't had that yet with the Suns or the Nuggets, right? They beat the Nuggets way back at the beginning of the season, but like, that will help me a lot if I could see them, because I think they play the Suns 2 more times as well. So those would be interesting games.
One of the secrets that we have that only you and I know is Nickeil Alexander-Walker. Are you surprised at how good Naw is sometimes? Sometimes.
Oh, I'm totally surprised by it. Like, given a year ago, they acquired him as like salary filler in a trade. I mean, it's just, I'm a basketball nerd and I'm watching a ton of games around the league, right? And you just have kind of like those players where you're like, man, I like this guy. He's like the 7th man. I remember Lou Dort was that for me with the Thunder like 4 years ago or whatever. And I just feel like the real NBA nerds out there who aren't in Minnesota, but they're watching games. They're like, Nickeil Alexander-Walker, that's a dude. And I think they're right, man. I've been comparing him to Alex Caruso.
Wow. Yeah.
And he's actually shot it. Maybe a little bit better of a shooter than Caruso is too. Caruso is a really good defender, but I think that is just the exact type of guy. I mean, he did it with the Lakers, right? He was the role player on the Lakers in 2020 when they won it. I think Nikhil is that for this team. I mean, who would you say the sixth man of the Wolves is?
It's going to be Monte Morris. But I guess people consider it to be Nas. But I do like the other thing I like about Nah is he's worked on his shot. He hits some of the threes. He's shooting a good percentage. Now his form, he's not as good. He's not as good as this guy, obviously shooting wise. But George Gervin used to shoot like that. The Iceman, really soft, high arc. And I know people are saying, how can you compare him? I'm not. I'm just saying the form is a little bit like that to the side. And
go watch Nickeil Alexander-Walker take jump shots. It's goofy. I mean, I think he's shooting like 38, 39% from three this year. But it's like he's ambidextrous.
Yeah.
So he has like all of these weird things. Like, you're right-handed, right?
Yeah.
Yeah. So like when you're taking a jumper, right, you have your right foot forward.
You have to. Oh, that's right. Oh, that's right. I think you said this last year.
Oh, did I? Yeah.
And that's across your body, and that's not right. You're not supposed to do that. Shooting across your body like that.
Nikhil, you just can't look at the form, and you just got it. I mean, Tyrese Halliburton too, right? Like terrible form, but that sucker goes in,
Jamal Wilkes. I just like naming old players. You don't remember Jamal Wilkes.
We could do that for an hour.
All right, brother. I'll see you soon. I'm sure you're coming out when they play the Lakers. It's like March 10th and 12th. You're going to be out here or not?
I do believe I will be. I think that's a Monday and Wednesday. I'm actually trying to figure out that's on my to-do list today. It's figure out my travel.
It's you, me, and Johnny Athletic pub crawling. So it's going to be
one vodka. No, that's it. I might break that rule.
Great seeing you, brother. Go Wolves.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. I'll see you in March.
Thank you, sir. Right. Ladies and gentlemen, that's our show. I want to thank Dane Moore. It's the Dane Moore Podcast. All Timberwolves all the time. We'll see you next time, young people. And remember, I'm proud of you.